Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary with a knife video for you. Today I want to imagine a scenario. By the way, you can see the background's changed again. I'm almost done with my office and I am in a more comfortable chair. So I'll try not to let my extra comfort make these videos longer than usual. I already make fairly long videos, but today I want to talk about buying a new knife. Okay, so let's say you're watching this and you say, hey, I want to buy a knife. I don't know what to get. I know I need a pocket knife. I know, what I want to do with it, but where do I start? What kind of steel do I look for? How big should it be? How small should it be? Okay. So the first two things I want to say is you need to ask yourself, well, three things I want to say. Number one, what role do I want this knife to play? Is it going to be an EDC knife just in my pocket all the time? Or am I planning to use it for self-defense or for bushcraft or, for cutting animals or for, my hobby of throwing knives? Or is it a work knife? I'm going to be using it for cutting straps and boxes. Maybe it's a work knife and I'm in emergency service, or I'm a soldier and my work knife needs to be defensive. Okay, so what role is the knife going to play? Number two, how much do I want to spend? All right, and there's a number of factors that come into that. Maybe you're just a person who likes nicer stuff. Okay, maybe you would never think of buying a pair of shoes that cost less than $100 because you're not into that. Maybe everything you wear and own has to be fairly high end. All right, totally fine. Maybe you want something that's different. Maybe you're the kind of person, this is one of the characteristics that I look for in a knife. I'd like to carry something that not a lot of people have, that when I pull it out, it's going to be a little bit unique. Okay, Boker Federal, although it's not expensive, it is certainly very different looking than a lot of other titanium frame locks. Let's say you may be looking for a certain style of knife. Someone commented on a video of mine the other day saying, I'm looking specifically for a new titanium frame lock, and I'm not sure, maybe they don't have one other than that, or maybe they're getting into something different. All right, so what is the knife going to do, and how much do I want to spend? Am I wanting something higher end, lower end, whatever? And if you're going to lose it or break it, you may as well not spend that much money. If it's going to be with you forever, you're going to hand it on to your kids, well, yeah, why not spend $100 and so you've got something nice, especially if it's going to be a knife you're going to carry and use every day. You want it to be quality, right? Finally, laws wherever you are, okay? Don't go out and spend $100 on a knife that you're not allowed legally to carry, or that the first time a police officer stops you and asks to see it is going to take it away, and now you're out your $100. All right, so first thing is role, second thing is cost. Now, once I've decided, hey, I want a larger knife, now I'm going to use myself as an example just because, number one, it's my collection that I've got to share with you. Number two, we could come up with a million rolls and every category would be different, okay? So for me, I like my EDC knives to be 3.5 inches, around 3.5 inches in blade length. I like them to be around 5 ounces in weight. A little over, a little under is totally cool. And I like them to be at a reasonable level of quality. Now, some of the knives I'm going to show you are a little higher end, some of them are a little lower end, some of them are a little too heavy, some of them are very light for what you're getting, and I'll make mention of a lot of that stuff. So, first consideration, size and weight, okay? I want a knife that's about 3.5 inches, but it can't be a brick. If I'm going to carry this every day, it has to be comfortable. So let me give you an example of a knife that's probably too heavy for most people. This is the Zero Tolerance 0200. Really awesome knife. I totally love this knife, but it is heavy. I don't think anyone would try to argue that it's not pretty heavy for what you're getting, okay? Plus, it's also very thick. So when you put this in your pocket, not only do you have something that weighs quite a bit, around 7 ounces, I guess almost 8 ounces, maybe it is 8 ounces, but you also have something that is thick and bulky, so this really fills up your pocket. Compare that to Cold Steel Recon 1, which is actually bigger, but it weighs like 3 ounces less. You're getting more blade, it's got a much thinner profile. So if you're looking for a large knife, both of these would qualify as large knives, but one is probably going to be a little easier to carry than the other. Now, Code 4 is probably better than either one of them because it's now smaller, it's a little bit lighter, but not much, but it's a very thin profile, so it carries really, really comfortably. One more that's a good example of size and weight. This is a Miyako Shockwave, very, very budget-friendly knife, really cool knife, and this represents a sacrifice. Okay, so maybe you say to yourself, hey, I'd like a Recon 1, but I'm not going to spend $70 or $80 on my knife. Miyako Shockwave it's heavier, but man, it's a lot cheaper. So I can spend $20 on this and have a pretty good knife that'll do the things that I need it to do. And yeah, I'm carrying a little extra weight, but it's worth carrying that extra weight to me to save a few dollars. Now, I'm not saying you necessarily have to do that. There are lots of other options here that are good budget-friendly options. SOG Aegis is a good example of a knife, hey, extremely, extremely lightweight. I don't have a pair of two here, I can't believe that. But very lightweight, but not so budget friendly. These things are, they're still selling for around 70 bucks some places. You can get them for cheaper. I got this one for about $45, but it did take some shopping around. And $45 to me is about what these should be going for, okay? This one has a little bit of up and down blade play, which again, I think influences the price point, and the steel is just Aus 8. We haven't got to that point yet, but I want to point out that there are some knives that they may not be as durable, they may not be as tough, but something like an Aegis, a pair of two is definitely a big step up from a SOG Aegis in my mind, but it's fairly lightweight for what you're carrying, and I just don't have one with me. Another good sort of budget-friendly option, 5 ounces, about 40 bucks, maybe even 35 bucks, Rat Model 1, great knife, great price, but it is a little heavy for a knife of its size. You don't expect to see these certain things maximized as you change price point. So size and weight is number one. Is this going to be too heavy for me to carry? If it is, then maybe I ought to look elsewhere. I better show you two other extreme examples. Here is the Schrade SCH 306. Very durable knife, but heavy, okay? Practical, affordable, but man, to save yourself a few dollars, you are carrying a really, really heavy knife. Now, on the other hand, here's a very lightweight knife, but I have some questions about the fit and finish, about the strength of this knife, and about the quality, because it does have some blade play. So now, here's a knife that's very lightweight and reasonably capable. Okay, most EDC tasks are going to be just fine with your SOG Trident Elite, but it's fairly expensive, okay? All right, so we've talked about size and weight. I pointed out that you can get some pretty large knives for a pretty reasonable weight to carry. So that's something you need to think through. If you're going to carry this every single day, all the time, you're going to want to sort of maximize what you need. And maybe you don't need a knife of that size. Okay, maybe you're watching this going, hey, I'm happy with a 2-inch blade, so maybe a cold steel tough light is fine for you. And then, of course, size and weight hardly even matters because it's only going to be a few ounces. Even more extreme would be the Buck Apex. This thing weighs less than 2 ounces. It only has a couple inches of blade length, but you say, hey, I only need a couple inches, then you can get away with something very, very lightweight. For me, 3.5 inches is about where I want to be. So let's talk about, now that we've talked about size and weight, what about the blade? What kind of blade do you need? This is a combination of things. One, what role is it going to play? Number two, what are your preferences? For me, I really like hologram blades for EDC because of the fact that the edge here can be very thin, and that means this knife is going to slice really, really well. Now, with that thin edge, you do increase the chances that you may chip something out of the edge here. But if you use your knife primarily for cutting tasks and you don't go chopping and banging on things, you'll probably be fine. But let's do a very, very, very fast rundown. So here's a hologram blade. Okay, I need to do a whole video just on blade shapes. Here is a drop point, but this is flat ground instead. So flat grind versus hollow grind means, so there's a flat grind, a hollow grind is actually curved, okay? Hollow grind. Here is another flat grind. Now here is a Scandi grind. So it's a flat grind, but it is zero ground. There's no secondary bevel on this. That means you don't sharpen it and then sharpen it again. You just bang, it's done. Let's see. I wanted to show you guys. There we go. Here is a full flat grind. So this knife is a flat grind, and it's finished all the way to the top, and it is ground at an angle out toward the end. Now this makes a very, very good slicing knife. Great for food prep. It's going to be a good penetrating knife, but it's pretty sensitive. This edge is incredibly fine, and if you're not careful, there is a chance you could break it. So We care about grind. We care about blade shape. I think I just showed you a drop point blade. So there's a drop point. Here is a tanto. Okay, here's another tanto. The Cold Steel Code 4. Let's see, what other blade shapes have I got? Here's a clip point. Now this one has a recurve as well. Do I have a Wharncliffe? Yeah, I do. Tough Light is a Wharncliffe style blade where it's just flat. So, got a bunch of different blade types there. You need to ask yourself, number one, what blade do I like? A lot of these, by the way, are flexible enough that preference ought to come into the discussion, because maybe you just like the look of drop point blades or clip point blades, or whatever. Now, that's totally fine, because most of these blades, although they may be more suited for certain tasks, can be made to do a lot of the other things that you may want to do. So we care about blade shape, we care about blade grind, we care about blade length, also a blade steel. Now in lower end blades, you're going to be getting AUS 8 or HCR 13 MOV, like these two. Okay, and those are all fine steels, but if you want to sort of upgrade, now this one kind of is a challenge, because these are 14C28N, but they're fairly budget-friendly blades. These are real steel knives. 14C28N would be a step up from most of those. VG10, do I have anything in VG10? Guess not. VG10, 154CM, there we go, I do have something in that. 154CM. These steels are all sort of one step above your budget entry-level steels. And then you can go above that yet and get into CTSX HP or S30V. I don't have anything here in S30V, that's a shame. S30V, M390, these are VG, S110V, S90V, these are pretty high-end steels, okay? And if you're the kind of person who likes really high-end materials, things that are maybe a little more unique, things are a little harder to get your hands on, those are all good options, although you will be paying for all of those options. So when it comes to blades, those are all the different things that are out there. So blade steel would be the last consideration. And one of the things that I want to point out is that you want to, at least I look at the steel. All right, so this is AUS 8 steel, but this knife costs quite a bit, like 70 bucks, let's say. For me, that's not a great value. Okay, I feel like at $70 price point, I should be minimum getting VG10, if not 154CM or something else. Okay, so as the price increases, the quality of the steel should increase, and that's something to look for as you're deciding what knife to buy. So we've talked about blade, we've talked about grind, toughness, steel. How about lockup and deployment? Okay, now this is a tough one because there are tons of good locks, there are tons of tough locks, and I have a whole video about that. But some knives are funner to play with than others. So this knife is a knife that has a liner lock, it's got a flipper on it, and it's ball bearing pivot. So it's super, super fun to play with and flip. You can just do this all day and never get tired of it, okay? Something like Kershaw Blur, still a liner lock, now it's assisted opening. It's maybe not quite as fun to play with because instead of just dropping the blade down, you can see that the torsion bar, this is spring assisted, stops you from being able to do that. Now, here's a frame lock, again ball bearing pivot and a flipper, and again, it's pretty fun to play with. All right, so what kind of lock do you want? Well, you need to ask yourself, what am I going to do with the knife? Again, do I need a lock that's really, really dependable? If you're using your knife for combat at all, you want a super, super dependable lock. If it's just an EDC knife, well, maybe it's not quite as critical. Triad lock is going to be super, super strong. Maybe not as fun to play with, but definitely very, very practical. Liner locks are good, but if you're going to get a knife with a liner lock, do your due diligence and make sure that there's not a lot of complaints about blade play or lock rock or even lock failure on the particular knife you're buying. Same is true of frame locks. Frame locks are good, okay, but again, do your due diligence and make sure the knife that you're looking at isn't known to have certain issues. Maybe because of where you are, because of what you're using the knife for, no lock, okay, is an option. So, lockup and deployment. Now finally, handle. And for handle, again, you need to consider what you're doing with the knife and also what you want. So I've got lots of different things represented here. So here's a knife in G10 and stainless steel. G10 is, out of all the rubbery, plasticky stuff that's out there, G10 is about the best, okay? So look for something in G10 if you can get it. If you are into sort of fancier stuff, you might want to look at a titanium frame lock. Okay, so this is titanium with carbon fiber inserts. This is a frame lock as well, but it's just stainless steel. Now, I'm going to just say something, sort of a blanket statement, and those are always dangerous, but generally, I find that stainless steel frame locks are pretty heavy for what you're getting. Okay, titanium frame locks can be the same, but of course titanium is considerably lighter than steel, and people make the sacrifice because they're interested in the higher end stuff. So look for G10, look for titanium. Aluminum is good. I don't mind aluminum handles. Okay, all of those are totally fine. Now, you will get some knives, like here's the Cold Steel Finwolf. This is in Grivery. So it's like a fiber reinforced plastic. There are tons of fiber reinforced plastics. Everyone kind of has their own proprietary name for them. FRN, GRN, Grivery, you know, whatever else is out there. So, you know, here's a good example of a knife that, great knife, but it is a FRN handle, fiber reinforced nylon handle. For that price point, for a similar price point, if you look around, you can probably find a knife that has G10, maybe something like this Real Steel. Now this Real Steel costs only like a teeny bit more, maybe $5 more than the Rat 1, but you're getting G10, in this case it's textured G10 with a geared pattern backspacer. This is a knife that really maximizes value for dollar, by the way, because the steel is also very, very good. But when it comes to handle materials, look for G10, look for titanium. Stainless steel liners are nice, but they're not necessary. Now, milled liners are kind of helpful. Here's a knife that has G10 and stainless steel. It has a G10 backspacer, but what I want you to notice, and you may or may not be able to see this, we'll just hope for the best, inside of this, and if you want more, the review of this will be coming out maybe in a couple weeks. This knife is heavily milled out. All right, let me see if I can find an example of one that's not milled out. The 0200 is slightly milled out, but it's still super duper heavy. Okay, here we go. So the Meyer Co. stainless steel liners, but not milled out at all. So milling means you've taken away some of the stainless steel material on the liners to save weight, and that is always nice. A couple of knives that, you know, SOGs, especially the budget SOGs, tend to be, again, an FRN, but they tend to have a bit of a cheaper feel, okay? Let's see, aluminum handle is fine. Aluminum is quite strong, and so this handle has no liners of any kind. It's a sub-frame lock, which is going to be, you know, similar to a frame lock. And aluminum, the issue can be grip, okay? So let me compare, say, these two knives, the Recon 1 and the Code 4. The Recon 1 is grippier, okay? Now, the Code 4 is fine. I have no problem keeping my hands on it, and I've used this knife a lot. But the G10 is just a little grippier in your hand. If you're someone who says, yeah, I want something that is really, really aggressive texturing, then you're going to want to go with a G10, an FRN, maybe rubber inserts, that kind of stuff. Let's see. There we go. I think, oh, wait, two more important things about the handle. Number one, are you a guy who cares about lanyards or not? You need to check, does this knife have a lanyard hole if you want to put a lanyard on it? And how does it ride, okay? Is the clip, is there a lot of knives sticking out of my pocket? Don't I have any deep carry clips here? Here we go. Is it a rollover clip, which makes it fairly deep carry? Is it easy to get in and out of pocket? Is it going to tear up my pants like a lot of cold steels? Pocket clip and lanyard hole are a couple more considerations that you may want to think about. There you go, guys. I hope that I have given you a little bit to think about in all these different categories that might help you make a decision. I will say that pretty well at every price point there are good quality knives that can be had, from very budget-friendly knives like the Charade for, you know what, $17 or something like that. This is a pretty capable knife. To, you know, as you go up the scale, maybe this is around $20, $22, $23, moving up to like $35. You've got the Rat 1, a little higher, maybe at $40. You've got a couple of real steels, the SOG Aegis if you shop around, Kershaw Blur. And most of these, actually I would recommend all but the Aegis at the $40 price point. And you can imagine, and the only reason I wouldn't recommend the Aegis is because there seems to always be is blade play with that particular lock. As you get into the more $70 price point, you know, you've got Kershaw, Knockout, you got the Recon 1, you've got the Code 4. Code 4s, by the way, I think are one of the best values going. Spyderco Endura lands around that price point. A knife that's maybe not a great value at that price point would be the SOG Trident. Okay, Trident Elite, I should say. I think the actual Trident would be a little cheaper. And you can still go higher, okay? If you get up to around $100, now you're looking at, do I have anything that lands right at that $100? I guess not. But around, let me just say this, around $120 to $150 is where you're sort of maxing out the dollar per quality equation, okay? Beyond $150, you're paying more for, you know, higher end finishes, maybe certain higher end materials, for, you know, very selective steels, things that are not really adding much to performance. They're just sort of accoutrements, they're just extras, okay? There's nothing wrong with wanting extras. It's like getting the interior, the leather interior in a car. Are the seats all that much more comfortable? No, but maybe some people just like leather, okay? Around that, you know, $150 price point, and here's a perfect example. Let's say you're looking for a titanium frame lock. Well, you can pay a lot of money for a Ti frame lock, but there are some from Boker, and there's a really good one. The Excelsis from Maxpedition is a great titanium frame lock at a really budget-friendly price. And, you know, there's some from Boker as well. Now, if you want a better quality one with better features, yes, you're probably going to have to break that $150 price point. But again, we're down to, does a knife cut any better because it has a titanium frame lock? Not really. Okay, it's sort of like the, I should have brought my military in titanium. Does it cut any better than the G10 liner lock military? No. Okay, but the handle is titanium, so that's way cooler, right? All right, there you go, guys. I hope this video helps. It's been sort of a rambling video, but what I was hoping to do is kind of give you guys some ideas of, number one, what to look for if you're buying a knife, what things, and to help you develop some of your own preferences. Maybe you see a knife and you go, yeah, now that I've watched that video, I do not like recurves, and I'm going to make sure I don't buy one. Maybe you say, hey, I'm going to prefer a clip point over a drop point. I'm going to prefer G10 handle scales over FRN handle scales. And so all of those things I hope will kind of help you. Obviously, this video can be super long, and it already is 23 minutes. I'm going to stop here. If there's any questions or comments, and I'd love to hear in the comments below, what are the things that you really look for? Maybe there's something that is a deal breaker for you. You go, hey, if it has a such and such lock, or if it has a certain blade steel, I'm just not interested. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.